When did you know you were going to DC for it?
Oh, just as soon as he called. As soon as Trump said, I want you to come.
There's been a significant escalation in just the last few moments.
Reports that there's tear gas being used and they were trying to...
Multiple capital injuries. We're coming around. We're going to give riot warning.
A former city council member appears in federal court today to answer a criminal complaint
filed in United States District Court accusing former Parkersburg City Council member Eric Barber of multiple crimes related to the January 6th riot.
Giving us the building. Let's go. Let's go. Break it down. Break it down. Break it down. Break it down.
I really liked him. I mean, he came to the door, he had a clean white shirt, his sleeves were rolled up, you know, that kind of let's get to work attitude. You know, he was young, he was energetic, you know, had a charm to him, really. He came to our door, he was campaigning door to door, and he did that a lot. You know, he did a lot of door to door.
So Eric Barber first showed up for the Progressive Dems of Wood County. I just remember like sitting like right here in this room, and Eric Barber sat like 2 or 3 people down from me.
People were welcoming and receptive to what he had to say because, you know, at that time, the reason that the Democrats wanted to run someone like him is they felt that people could identify with in the district that he was running in. You know, it's a low-income district, a lot of poverty. Of course, that correlates with crime and run-ins with the law. You know, so he had that in his own past, and people thought he can identify with a lot of members of his district, and this will be good.
Well, I'm gonna tell you why I ran as a Dem. I'm a labor guy. I'm a construction worker. Blue collar life is me. I'm just a West Virginian from Route 47, dude. You know, I'm this country, and you know, I didn't grow up in town. I bought a house off Fannie Mae after foreclosure. So that makes me want to say, hey, I can support some of these ideals here. Prior to 2017, the Democrat Party downtown was run by the old guard. Old guard, like Jimmy Colombo type of Democrats, you know what I'm saying?
Like labor, union guys.
Yeah, just white males, older white males.
West Virginians typically, you know, they're about building roads and bridges and all that stuff. They're also very much pro-life, pro-gun. All of these identities that exist are activated in ways that are not described easily in sort of national sort of media understandings of politics, where D means you know, pro-choice and government intervention in the economy. That sort of notion is gone. That organizing principle is gone after 2016.
The non-discrimination ordinance would have provided protections against discrimination in housing, employment, and public accommodations for all different types of people, but specifically for sexual orientation and gender identity.
Well, the Family Policy Council of West Virginia and our sister organizations in 40 other states, we all see these NDOs, these non-discrimination ordinances that add in sexual orientation and gender identity and gender expression. We see them as the #1 threat to freedom in America.
At first, I was not an Alan Witt guy. He seemed kind of, he definitely wasn't shady, but he just came across as like the super politician lobbyist, just oozed of political maneuvering.
We'd be made aware of them, and we'd contact local community faith leaders who understand the dangers of these things. And oftentimes we could put hundreds and hundreds of people into a city council to express their displeasure with even considering something like this.
One of the things concerning that particular time was our children. And the question was a guy allowed to go into a girl's bathroom and so on and so forth. And the one thing I found out about some of the finest Christian people that I know is, you touch me, I'm just going to go to God, but you touch my children, me and God are going to come to you.
As soon as there was more public knowledge about what was happening, that is when folks who were advocates and organizers for this ordinance saw a change. That change being the Family Policy Council getting involved, pastors and leaders of various church communities, the language that they use to describe the ordinance to their congregations, it replicates the language that the Family Policy Council uses to describe the law.
How many of you guys know that there's an unrighteous agenda with the LGBT community that is trying to infiltrate Parkersburg?
It often becomes this like, oh, well, if we support LGBTQ people, we're discriminating against Christians. I met so many Christian leaders in Parkersburg who were very much in support of the non-discrimination ordinance. So the pushback against adopting this legislation, this ordinance, was very much from a small sector of the Christian community in Parkersburg.
One of the ordinance's sponsors was City Council member Eric Barber.
When people came to me and said, hey, we're being oppressed and we're being discriminated against, well, they found a sympathetic ear with me, because everything they said, I experienced and it resonated with me. And who wants to hear that people are being treated badly? Whether you're anyone of any type, you're not supposed to be like indifferent to that. What it came down to was two things. I got arrested. I got body slammed by a police officer. What, 2 weeks before the vote? And that's when the story broke that I was a convicted felon.
I don't think anybody minded particularly that Eric was a felon. I mean, this is public record, but he'd been in jail for 7 years, breaking and entering. And in fact, that's kind of how I got to know more of his story, because he was working on felon right to vote.
That happened the same week that we were going to vote yes or no on the NDO. So now I got all these folks coming at me talking about, oh, recall. We didn't know you were a felon. Yeah, you can vote for that if you want. And we're coming for you.
It just takes a little bit of messaging to those individuals on specific issues that they care about, and they see the light. And of course, some politicians, they never want to see the light. And for those, some of those have to feel the heat.
So I was given that, okay? And it was no one from the right, but just messages internally by people saying, no, this is what they're looking at. And I knew there's a bunch of people in this community that are gonna want my head, and they may be able to get it. So I just took the politician's road. I went with what I thought was the best play. And at the time, I told several people I wouldn't let it fail.
Sometime later, he shows back up at a city council meeting in a three-piece suit with a new cell phone. And his entire PR image, he's saying the right things. You can tell he's had some PR coaching. That came from Alan Witt.
I would beg to speculate or argue that had Alan Witt not gotten involved in the fight in Parkersburg for the NDO, it probably would have passed.
After he has the final vote, and the NDO ordinance failed on a vote of 6-3. So we flipped it completely. But the other side immediately turned. There was no more welcoming someone who no longer shared their ideology.
It's so disheartening to see people who are meant to serve us take our ability to survive in the current economy so lightly.
The more the hard left hated me, the more I searched out the warm embrace and hug of conservatism. So I could have stayed over here. You guys kept pushing me. And I would have stayed in the middle. I would have. But the more you guys were against me, the more they supported me. And the more hardcore Trump-like I was, the more positive feedback I got.
He's not talking to constituents and dealing with their needs. He's not addressing anything locally in his district that's of any benefit to his constituents. It's all culture wars at this point. You know, beforehand, he may have at least been having conversations, how can I help you, what do you need, that a city council person would normally have. But after this involvement with the Family Policy Council, after we got into this NDO fight, it was pure culture war. Nothing else mattered.
You have an example of someone who was predisposed before this to talk about potholes and fixing roads, bridges, that sort of stuff, and is activated by these social issues. In West Virginia, this identity used to be constrained structurally in a way by labor unions who sort of forced the organization of a lot of citizens to congeal them around a coherent message about the economy, really, that sort of set all these other identities aside. With the dissolution of labor, all of these other identities are now fair game.
You're gonna think that Sean Hannity and like Laura Ingraham had a child, and that child was raised by Ben Shapiro, and I'm that child. That's who I'm gonna be now. You know, I tried to be as hardcore conservative as I could be, because you are the enemy, and handwriting's on the wall. You're in Trump country.
You are going to preach you have a constitutional right to protest, then we have a constitutional right to protect ourselves and to bear arms. Here in Parkersburg, West Virginia, we're not going to allow people to throw bricks through buildings and pull out business owners and kill them in the street.
We wanted to turn this into an events center that accommodates all communities and brings the downtown back to life.
When I moved here to Parkersburg in 2001, and I started going to school here, I would always get invited to go to the Dill Center to dance.
Yes, when I was in prison, I got tattoos. Yes, I do have lightning bolts on me. Yes, I did get involved with the wrong people who I thought at the right time were right people.
We watched the riots and everything come down there. And then we got word that they're coming to Parkersburg.
May 31st, there was a permit secured through the city. So the city and the state was well aware that this march was going to occur in Parkersburg down Market Street, right behind us.
I have a friend that was on Facebook one day and is like, hey, Vinny, there was a post this guy made that they're going to loot the Dill Center. Well, he sent me a screenshot. All we needed was one.
The second thing is you really have to make sure that everyone that's going to participate in the march is safe, down to like hydration. Make sure you have water, make sure you have snacks.
You got to watch out for these 30 packs of water. And then if you look at the building right 2 doors down, I had a picture of it. There was 2 30 packs of water just placed in there.
Wait, why are we supposed to watch for those?
Well, they said that they're using them to make Molotov cocktails.
How many people have been consuming Fox News on-stop for however many months? Every day, Black Lives Matter burned down the store. Here they are, photos of them taking laptops and stealing flat screens in the name of social justice. Are they coming to your business to burn it down next?
The national media makes money when they can pitch issues as conflict.
The problem with outbreaks of mob violence is you really have no idea where they're going next. You can't.
Well, conflict demands opposing sides, and it demands that those sides see each other as others. And that has consequences as a society for sort of everything from how we view each other to the possibilities for bridging any of our differences. This larger media environment creates conditions where even those things that they might agree on, we can no longer agree on.
A lot of business owners up and down here will stand there openly with firearms on their side.
They'd seen the riots on TV. If you take it as we are defending our property, I have more empathy for that. but with assault rifles, and with every police officer and sheriff in a 5-county area was out here at Western District assembling the day of that march. There was no shortage of police manpower.
I don't think conservatives on our side were terrified. The ones who showed up with their ARs wanted to just seize an opportunity to do that.
It was literally, like, I'll literally stand here for you, right here. Pastor Janet out of Bethel Church, right here. Derek Schuyler, you had the sheriff in the back. This is where it was at. Eric Barber got the photo right there. With a city council member uplifting, taking the picture and then uplifting it on his social media. So it was like the perfect image of what it looks like across the country with Christian nationalists, militia groups, law enforcement, and city officials all collaborating to go after Black Lives Matter organizers under the guise of protecting businesses.
That was a great photo, that was a great statement. And I knew it was offensive to the left. I knew I'd really pushed their buttons.
I had no concerns that this was going to be at all violent, but I saw probably 4 groups of people in camouflage with assault weapons standing outside of stores. And I thought, holy cow, here we've got, what, 1,000 people walking down the street, and every single person here is afraid the other person's going to shoot them. You know, that was just, what have we done? You know, what have we done in our community with each other that we cannot even walk down the street without thinking that somebody's going to shoot us?
Whenever we peel politics back and politics becomes about this set of identities, well, when we make that shift from the abstract of, you know, what should government do for us and not do for us, when is it too big, when is it too small, to all of these things are an affront to who I am as a person and my values, politics stops becoming something we can discuss over coffee or a beer and becomes something that is zero-sum. And in a zero-sum world, nothing is negotiable.
All hell is going to break loose tomorrow. It's going to be moving, it's going to be quick, and all I can say is strap in. The War Room, a posse. You have made this happen, and tomorrow it's game day.
We're going to walk down anyone you want, but I think right here we're going to walk down to the Capitol.
So Trump had asked us to come, and he never asked us for anything, so I came. Then I knew, as soon as all the ladies and the old men get back on the tour buses, it's gonna be on. I'm checking, like, I'm asking people what weapons are legal in DC.
I mean, I had just gotten sworn in January, right? And it's an incredible thing to swear to support the Constitution. I mean, you swear to do that. And it's like, how? How can you justify swearing to support the Constitution and then support a group that's going to hang the vice president?
Nobody pushed me in the line. I got into the line. And when I got up to the window, I could have stepped to the side and not went through.
This next video shows their approach and the initial breach of the Capitol complex.
It wasn't till they started chanting, like, break it down and some other stuff that I realized, okay, we've went to another level here.
Break it down, 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 break it down.
Barber is just a speck, really, on the tip of the spear. These people are at the very end of a long campaign, a slog, really, winning state and local elections, making policy. I think it really starts with being aware of these national narratives that activate these identities and being attentive to where we get our news, and I think in some parts attentive to the goals of political elites, because they're very different.
It is manipulative forces like Donald Trump, white supremacist forces, other opportunists with more means and more to gain, who can use people like him and manipulate him into doing things like what we saw on January 6th, and who will sit back and have a healthy laugh at it.
I think it's up to us organizers and activists, to ensure that it doesn't happen again, and that someone like Eric Barber does not get even an inkling of an opportunity to represent us. The Republican Party have not said anything in regards to this, what happened, not just here locally, not just here in the state, but what happened nationally in terms of terrorists within their own party.
I think I said to you, if I had had free days, I may have been one of those people at the Capitol, not causing problems, but to be there to pray.
I'm just going to continue with my life and enjoy what I think is going to be the good part. Because, everything that happened between age 20 and 40 was fairly rough. But, I've got a lot to look forward to, and a lot of fun things going on in my life. And I got 2 beautiful daughters, happy wife, nice little house in the HOA, stock car in my driveway. I don't know what more you need, really. Family, a few toys, a little bit of property. Well, I don't know what else there is. My children aren't old enough to know, but one day, when they're seniors, it'll be in the textbooks by then. And they're gonna know that their dad was there.